Welcome again to Cottage Talk. I am Russ Coleman. This is my full-time show of Fulham's 3-1 victory in Portugal. It's a friendly against Nottingham Forest, and I'm going to be sharing my thoughts probably for the next 15 to 20 minutes. It is good to watch Fulham play once again. I'm glad that the club made it available on their website. I did purchase it. Yes, I did because I wanted to watch it. I watched it on my laptop. And I got to tell you, it was enjoyable to watch. And I'll be sharing my initial reaction. If you're watching live and you want to comment on what you watched, please feel free to share it in the comment section. I do want to mention before I go on any further, this is a free episode of Cottage Talk. It'll be available to download as a podcast, but as many supporters of the show will know, that I am offering a gift on the Cottage Talk Patreon page, 2 free months. So if you are interested in more content and some really good shows that we'll be doing throughout the year on this club, please do accept this gift that I'm giving you. 2 free months. I'm going to show you what you're going to be getting. So please do accept this gift. I have a lot of slots left. A lot of people have taken me up on this gift, and I hope others will shortly. Okay. Enough of talking about that. Let's talk about Fulham. And I can see a lot of people are going to be joining me here. And like I said, if you got a comment, please feel free to share, and I'll be sharing it during my initial reaction show for the next 20 minutes, hopefully, because I've got a lot to talk about. So let's start with my initial reaction. And obviously, I don't think this is going to be a shocker to anyone that just watched this. Listen, it's a friendly. The most important thing is to get up to fitness and also hopefully not have any injuries. And we'll be talking about a potential injury at the end of the show that happened at the end of the match. So that to me is the goal. Getting fitness up, getting to play minutes underneath you really getting it going. But more importantly, it's, and again, it really is getting your fitness up and playing with your teammates and hopefully not getting injured. And if you win the match, that's a bonus. So for me, this is a bonus. 3-1 is a bonus. So if I'm being honest, Fulham dominated the first half and Nottingham Forest dominated the second half. Fulham played a much stronger side to begin the match in that first half, and the flip side was in the second half where you have Nottingham Forest playing the majority of their starters. In the first half, they played a lot of youngsters. And then in the very end of the second half, you had Fulham adding some youngsters, which is good to see. But overall, it's just enjoyable to watch Fulham once again to get ready for the upcoming season. And honestly, like I said, it's too early to judge really much, but you can see Fulham are different from, say, the first preseason that they came back in the Premier League to who they are now. They are an established Premier League club. They look like, I'm talking about the players playing together, like they know each other's moves. So Fulham, obviously, moving forward, I want them to add players, but I can see the foundation has already been set. And now it's about getting up to speed, and that's what these matches are all about. So if I look at the first half, as I mentioned at the beginning, Fulham dominated. They completely dominated the first half. They had the ball the majority of the time, and they were creating most of the opportunities. And like I mentioned, yes, you can look at the fact that Nottingham Forest were playing many youngsters, but they also had some quality out there. So it wasn't completely Fulham playing an established starting 11 against a bunch of youngsters. It wasn't that. But there were some youngsters for Nottingham Forest, but Fulham looked by far the better side. Standouts in the first half, obviously, I'm going to be talking about Harry Wilson with the 2 goals. I thought Ryan Sessegnon stood out for me. Young Josh King, a standout again. And I'll be asking you the question at the end of the show. Who are the standouts in the match? I think the first half, those are the ones that stand out for me. Josh King, can't wait to see more of Josh King. I'll just say that. But what's interesting is watching Ryan Sessegnon play a left back. I want him to play further up the pitch, but I thought he was extremely effective in that first half. And when you look at the goals, and I'll be talking about that coming up next, Harry Wilson, and I saw the comments at halftime. I started to look on social media to see what the comments were. And I'm going to agree with the Fulham supporters that said this, that tweeted this. He needs a new contract because Harry Wilson, he's now in his prime. Sign him up. Sign him up to a longer-term deal. You want Harry Wilson with Fulham Football Club, whether he's a regular starter or he's platooning, starting. Harry Wilson looks like he's in rare form. He looks like he's in good form, and he also has already scored a couple goals, I believe, already in the summer. So he is ready to go, and that's a very positive and really showed itself in the first half. I also want to mention Calvin Bassey, who I think looked very assured of himself in the first half. But let's talk about the opener. From Fulham, you have Harry Wilson scores the opener. Great pass from Calvin Bassey. And Harry Wilson, nice lob over the goalkeeper and gives Fulham the early lead. And let's just say they deserved that early lead because, as I mentioned, they dominated the first half. They could have been up by more. But it's a good first goal from Fulham Football Club to give them the early lead 1-0. Well, minutes later, they followed it up, making it 2-0. Now, this is questionable. I know I'm listening to Gentleman Jim, and he is a little biased. Let's call it what it is. But I don't think that this was a free kick, but it was given on a challenge. I believe it was on Ryan Sessegnon, but the free kick from Harry Wilson puts it in the back of the net. Isn't it nice having a player that's pretty good on free kicks? And I want to say Harry Wilson can get it done. And he makes it 2-0. And Fulham are in complete control. Like I said, it could have been more, in my opinion. Another observation, and I should have mentioned him because he's another standout performer, Sanderberga. I thought he ran the show in the first half. Definitely controlled the play. Honestly, Nottingham Forest really didn't offer much in the first half. Part of that had to do with Berga just in complete control of that central midfield and just moving the ball from one side to the other. And Fulham were getting the ball wide. And it was also nice to see Kenny Tete back playing at right back. And honestly, I'll also mention having Timothy Castagna play at right back in the second half. Nice as well. But the first half, a complete domination from Fulham, and they deserved the 2-0 lead going into the second half. So here's the thing as we now talk about the second half. Gentleman Jim said it. I knew it. The second half was going to be completely different, and it was. When you're adding players, I'm talking about Nottingham Forest, you're bringing on Morgan Gibbs-White, Ola Aina, Chris Wood. You're bringing on Callum Hudson-Odoi, Nico Williams. Basically, most of their starters are coming on. And I knew that Marco would be making household changes, which he did. However, I want to just mention it was really nice to see Rodrigo Muniz, even though he didn't score, play a significant amount of minutes. It was 60-plus minutes. It might have been even longer than that. Same thing with Ryan Sessegnon. Significant minutes under his legs, getting his legs right. Those two players. And then you have the youngsters coming on for them in the second half. But I thought the fact that Fulham changed it up a tremendous amount. And then you have basically most of the starters from Nottingham Forest coming in. Now they're dominating the play. And I'm thinking, okay, this is probably going to end 2-2 or Fulham lost because Fulham's team in the second half was not the team that we saw in the first half. And it kind of showed itself. However, I think it was important to establish that lead even further when you have Andreas Pereira, as Gentleman Jim mention scoring a poacher's goal to make it 3-0. Great pass from Sasa Lukic, and I believe Harrison Reed was involved in this as well. And at this point, you're thinking the match is pretty much done and dusted, 3-0. But like I said, it's not about winning, losing. It's not about that or getting a draw. It's about fitness and playing with your teammates and getting those minutes. And they're up 3-0, and it's looking pretty good. But Bernd Leno had to make a decent amount of saves. And then, wouldn't you know, Chris Wood, basically a free header, makes it 3-1. And I'm thinking, uh-oh, they're going to score a couple more goals because they had more opportunities later on. But Bernd Leno did his job, and they did enough to have the victory, 3-1 to Fulham. And that, to me, like I said, it's a bonus to win this. More importantly, it's trying to get out of the match with no injuries, as Tony Gold said to me. So I do want to mention this because, and we're going to have to see how this all plays out at the very end of the match to basically secure the 3-1 victory for Fulham. You had Jorge Cuenca going in for a challenge, and he might have tweaked something. I don't want to speculate, but he went down for a few minutes, and then after the match, he went down as well. This is something to watch because Cuenca is a player that I think Fulham can really use this upcoming season. I don't want to see him go anywhere. I think he's a quality center back. So we're going to have to wait and see how this all plays out. But I do want to mention at the end of the match, Jorge Cuenca did go down. So that is something that we're going to have to follow. All right. Coming up next to end this quick episode of Cottage Talk, I'm going to share my thoughts on who were the standouts in this match. Okay. So to end this quick episode of Cottage Talk, I just want to mention my standout players in the match. And if you're watching live and you want to comment on any players, feel free to. I know this is a last-minute show, but I wanted to do a show right after the match ended because I like that there's talk after a match, even though it's a friendly. So standout players, well, I think we have to start with Harry Wilson. Harry Wilson needs a new contract. Harry Wilson scores 2 goals, looked very dangerous throughout the match. Definite standout player. I've also mentioned Sander Berge, ran the show in the first half. Another standout player. It's interesting because I had a conversation with Tony Gold about Berge, and he thinks he might be a little bit of a one-trick pony. We shall see. I think there's more in his locker than just one trick, but I just want to mention in this friendly, he was a standout performer. I also mentioned as a left back, I thought Ryan Sessegnon was a standout performer. I have high expectations for Sessegnon this season, but I see him further up the pitch as potentially a winger. But what's great watching him is that he can play the left back position, I think, as good as any left back. I think he is more than solid at left back. So he was a standout performer for me. I also mentioned in the first half, definitely Josh King, player to watch. I want him to play significant time this season. There's just something about him. I definitely think that Fulham need to play him more and more throughout the season. I thought he was a standout performer. But Calvin Bassey did his job as well. A good leader back there. I don't know if I'm going to call him a standout player for his performance because I don't think he really had too much to do because Nottingham Forest really didn't offer much. But I found the haircut interesting for Joachim Andersen that doesn't have much hair left. So, but those were my standout performers, especially in the first half. I think in the second half, Sasa Lukic, I thought, played pretty decent. So definitely want to mention him. Rodrigo Muniz, I think, deserves a shout out. I don't know if I would call him a standout player, but I think it's important that he plays. And I want to just call crap on all the speculation with him potentially going out. I wouldn't sell him. I think it's important, especially right now, him playing a lot of minutes. So the fact that he played 60 plus minutes, I think that's a standout in itself, Rodrigo Muniz. So good stuff from Fulham. Definitely, really I just think it's just a great chance to watch the team play. I want to share a couple comments from my friend Suhail. Thank you, Suhail, for sharing some comments. He agrees with me about Berga. He's more of an 8, but we seem to play him as a 6. Suhail, I agree with you. In fact, like I said, last season I was told by a Burnley supporter that he's more of an 8, and I could see that. But right now, he's going to be our 6. Also, I want to share this because the joy on your face when you speak of Josh King is palpable. I agree. I'm excited, Suhail. I think we have an incredible talent on our hands, and it's just so nice to see him with the team and Fulham back him by having him and then him back in the club by signing the new deal. I think there's huge things to come from Josh King. I think that's a great way to end this episode talking about Josh King because I think he's going to do big things this season. And I've already mentioned it many times. If I'm going to talk about a player to watch the entire season that I think is going to play great this season, Ryan Sessegnon. You heard it here first. Okay. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Cottage Talk. My name is Russ Goldman. Thank you as always for watching and listening to Cottage Talk, part of the Talk Sport Fan Network.